A museum is an institution that is devoted to the procurement, care, study, and display of objects of historic and lasting interest or value. Creating and maintaining a physical museum is expensive, so I decided to make this digital fantasy museum for an imaginary African kingdom called Untuna. I made the museum with Godot engine and a few tools in just 10 hours. This is because I used special tools that made everything easier and effective. I added features like the start screen, first-person controller movement, and a pop-up describing the historic items. I just wanted to let myself to create a digital fantasy museum where anything is possible. So, if you are ready to learn how I made it, then allow me to point you in the right direction. The first thing here is to create the 3D models of the entire museum and everything inside it. So I used Blender to create the museum building and the show glass for the historic items. This process was quite very simple for me because I have been using Blender for a very long time. I first added a character rig in the scene to get the right proportion of my models. Then I created the museum display show glass where items can be displayed. I did this before I started working on the main building. This made it easy for me to know the right size of my environment and the 3D objects in proportion to a human being. If you want to learn how to use Blender to model basic things in 3D, make sure to watch my free Blender course on my channel. The link will be in the description. After modeling, I added the glass material and other PBR textures to the models. I got these textures from freepbr.com, so feel free to visit the website. I use Meshy.ai to generate some pictures that I put on the 3D frames. At this moment, I was running out of ideas, so I just focused on creating something and then fixing it later. So don't stop when you are stuck, just keep on creating and soon more ideas will come to you. I added lights to get the overall feel and look of my museum. I had help looking at various pictures of real museums and getting little ideas from them. I then imported this 3D character that I created in Blender with the Make Human add-on. You can find the video on how I made the character. Links will be in the description. Finally, I selected all the models that I wanted to use and exported them using the GLTF format. I have a more detailed video on how to export from Blender to Godot. The link will be in the description. Now let's jump into the Godot engine. So I created a project and imported the 3D scene into one folder. I also added my Orchestrator add-on file because I will be using simple Godot visual scripting to create some interactive functionalities for my digital museum. I opened the 3D museum scene and saved it as a separate Godot scene to enable future editing. I began to select each model, find the material, and adjust the properties to fit in with the Godot engine, like turning the refraction on, the glow features, and other properties that will help it to be able to look good. I added the Omni light and increased it to illuminate the entire scene. I also added the environment node to make it easier to adjust the general lighting of the scene. I added a static body node to the scene and added a collision shape to it and scaled it to cover the floor. This will make the player not to fall out of the building when you start playing through the scene. You can also create a collision shape for the walls and other parts of the building where you don't want the character to pass through. For the first person controller, go to the asset lib and search for the basic FPS player add-on and install it. Go to the project settings, plugins, and activate the basic FPS player add-on. Select the root node, right-click, and add the basic FPS player node. Right-click on the FPS node and add a collision shape to it. I use the capsule collision shape for this. Make sure you adjust the position of the character to be above the floor. Test it to be sure everything is working fine. Use Ctrl-Alt-Tab to exit the game whenever you want to stop because we have not created our own exit command. I created a new scene for displaying the pop-up UI. The root node of the UI scene must be the control node for it to display properly. I added some text to test my scene and make sure that everything was working fine. Now you can add your Orchestrator script and set the visibility of the scene to be true when the character comes close to a particular item. I also added animations to the character model using the animation player and animation tree node. I set it to be activated by the signal whenever the character comes close to it. I added a new input map to exit the UI whenever you press the escape button on the keyboard. Now, to create the historic items, I used the Meshy.ai to create a picture of an imaginary historic jewel. Then I removed the background of the picture. To create the 3D models, I used Meshy.ai. The links for all this will be in the description. Upload the picture that you have removed the background and select the Meshy 4 model to create the 3D model and texture it for free. Download the model using the GLB format. Do it for all the models you want to create. So remember, make sure you're using the Meshy 4. If you use any other one, you will not have free credits. Other ones are paid. Import the model into Godot and place it in the right place. I also use Meshy.ai to create the pop-up UI for the description of the items to make it look better. To make sure that you don't pass through the show glass, I added a static body node and a collision shape for the show glass. Then I added the area 3D and a collision shape to detect when the character comes close to the item. I added the Orchestrator script and used the area 3D body entered signal to trigger the UI for the item description to become visible and make it invisible whenever you press the escape button. To make this work very well, I made the UI to be invisible at first, but then whenever you come close to the item, it becomes visible, and when you press the escape button, it will become invisible. Then I created the start screen for the digital museum, then an Orchestrator script to add some interactivity to the buttons for exploring the museum or exiting the app. I also added the R button to close the app whenever you want to exit the exploration when you are still playing through the entire scene. I used the eSync group to detect the player, and I added the FPS player into a group called player so that whenever the player touches it, that screen is going to display, but if other objects touch it, it will not display. This project can still have video pop-ups, audios, and even animations of elements within the museum to make it more immersive and interactive experience. But I'll do this in a near future project. If you would like me to continue building this digital fantasy museum, tell me in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to see more amazing content like this. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.